They are. Right. We are so excited to be here. Did she say we're sisters?
Actually,
we're
we didn't do
sisters.
this, so I think we should
Ready, set, roll. It's her turn.
start. Okay. We both live in Orem, Utah. Oh, first of all, I'm Jane Mack, and this is Nannette Wiggins, and we are teaching the class called Homeschooling the Family Way. We live in Orem. We both grew up in California. We've been involved in homeschooling for over 30 years. We began in 1982, so we're old, basically. I have 7 children. Nannette has 5 children. I have 19 and almost 20 next week, and you have grandchildren. 17 and a couple more on the way. So we have a lot of children between the two of us. Nannette and her husband are serving as addiction recovery missionaries right now, and my husband and I right now are serving at the MTC in a Japanese branch. So we'll go ahead. Turn the time to Nannette.
All right, well, we're really excited to be here today. I want to start out by telling you a story. A couple of years ago, our brother, and Jane's son decided that they wanted to do the St. George Ironman. And they worked so hard. My brother had done a lot of things, but he had never done a swimming event. So my nephew trained him, and they really got ready for this Ironman. They were so excited. A lot of the family went down there to be with them as they were participating. We were very excited for them. So this is what happened. An Ironman, if you don't know, is just Olympian event. It's amazing, where you swim several miles, you bike over 100 miles, and you run 26 miles. So it's a regular marathon plus all the. It's huge, and they worked so hard to be prepared for this. And they got down there, and it was a gorgeous day, just a gorgeous day in St. George. They got to the swimming event. That was the first event, and there were 1,700 people participating that day. And the gun went off, or whatever, the whistle or whatever blew, and they all jumped in the water and they started swimming. And so we wanted to show you a little clip of what happened that day.
Jeremy?
That's it.
You can talk while.
No sooner had they jumped in the water when it just became waves, 4-foot swells. It looked like the ocean when you looked out there. It was terrible. It was so difficult that they have life-saving boats out on the water while people are doing these kinds of events, and the life-saving boats were blown clear to the side. It was so dangerous that some of the people who were supposed to be saving lives were afraid for their own lives and had to get out. It was so dangerous that there were boats picking people up and getting them out of the water because the danger was high. And my nephew was one of those. The boat came by. They said, "Do you want to get in?" Well, my nephew knew that if he got in, the race was over for him, because once you stop in the middle of one of these events, you're done. And so the first time he said no, but by the time he got to the second event, there was a man in the water who was swimming next to somebody, and he thought he could finish it. But the guy next to him said, "I'm drowning, will you please help me?" So he forfeited his time in the race to help somebody else. And that's the kind of situation they were in. It was a life-saving rescuing, where all these people had come together, every man for himself. Now it was, we got to help each other and get out of here. So finally, when the second lifeboat came by, my nephew Lamont got in the lifeboat. The race was over for him. He had felt impressed to get out. That's what he did. But as he came into shore on the boat, my brother swam into shore. And my brother had been able to somehow become rescued by being enabled to swim the race. Everybody that day was rescued. There wasn't one person who wasn't rescued that day. 1,700 people made it out alive. They all made it out alive a different way. One day, when I was thinking about giving this talk with my sister today, and this event that we had just witnessed, I was thinking, this event came into my mind, and I thought, that's kind of like rescuing our children. Our greatest mission on the earth today is to rescue our Heavenly Father's children and to bring them home safely to Him. And every child is not going to be rescued the same way, are they? Some people are going to be rescued by the public school system, educationally speaking. Some people are going to have a rescue that looks more like an American heritage education. They come to a private school. Some children are being blessed by charter schools. And some people are being blessed, many children are being blessed, and more each day, by homeschooling. And those of us who have felt the call to homeschool, we are part of this great rescue. We're not out here, we're right here with everyone, trying to rescue our Heavenly Father's children. And today we want to talk to you a little bit about our experience with this rescue.
Both Nannette and I have went to BYU. Nannette graduated in elementary ed, and I didn't graduate in elementary ed, but I was in the program when I got married and started having a family. So both of us had a little bit of an education background, but had never even dreamed of homeschooling our children. We both became greatly filled with desire to do it for, I don't know, for this reason, for why we're here right now. But in the beginning, we just had this kind of a little ache inside of us, and so we decided that I didn't have any children in school yet. I had one son that was just 5, and a really young 5. Nannette had a daughter that was 8 that she felt was not getting what she needed in the public school, and so she felt like she should go ahead and do homeschool with her. So when she told me that she was going to do that with her, I said, well, I want to do it because I've always wanted to do it too. So together we began in separate homes. We had a summer, so we just started gathering everything that we could think of, and we trusted that the Lord would help us. And our experience from what was it, 1982 when we started until now, it has evolved. This homeschooling experience just evolved and evolved and evolved to where it is today. We did not homeschool because we didn't like the public schools. We felt like coming into homeschooling with a negative reason for homeschooling was not a very healthy thing. We wanted to homeschool because we loved our kids and we really wanted to be with them and felt like it was the right thing to do. We also homeschooled because we knew we were going to be home every day. Neither of us were working outside the home, and so we knew that it would work for us to do it. We wanted our kids during the best hours of the day. We did not want them after school when they're bringing home all their homework and they're sick and tired of it all. We wanted them during the best hours of the day, and we wanted their homework done during the best hours of the day and not after school as well. We wanted to help them develop academically. We wanted to help them develop character, and we wanted them to have a gospel view of the world. And we knew that we could help them to develop those things. So those are the reasons why. Oh, one more. We thought it would be so fun to keep learning and be in a learning environment ourselves and to keep studying as women. Not, we're out of school, but we can still keep studying.
So one thing we knew is that there were certain things that were really important in our day, getting ready ourselves for the day, spiritually, physically, emotionally, with the home, with our home environment. We decided we couldn't let those things go. Those were important things. And if we wanted an environment where our children could learn, where every child could learn, we wanted our homes to be organized and clean, and we wanted to be spiritually prepared ourselves for the day.
And physically.
And physically prepared for the day. So we're amongst those set your clock and get up at 6 and ride the exercise bike or those kind of things. We thought those were important. We still felt like it was important to hold a church job. This was not our new church job. It was still important to do our visiting teaching. And if we could fit those kinds of things in and do this, then that would be an okay thing for us. We were each in our early and mid 20s. We only knew really public school. We'd both gone to public school our whole experience with our education, and so all we really knew how to do was bring the public school home. And so that's what we did. we kind of recapitulated the public school in our homes, which we were so excited to do. I went to the alphabet station and I bought a big old blackboard and I ordered. My husband nailed it to the wall. I bought bulletin board stuff. Well, a school has to have a bulletin board, right? And I bought some of that foamy stuff, and my husband's back there. He died when he took that stuff down one time and saw the nail holes behind it, because I just nailed that thing to the wall. I didn't care. I didn't care. We were never going to take that thing down. And I bought those little borders at the alphabet station, made it cute. We bought desks. We went to the Granite School warehouse or something. They were getting rid of all these desks. We bought each of our children their own desks. And our mom was a school teacher. How awesome was that she supported us in this? She's one of the greatest school teachers in the whole Alpine School District. She is a wonderful teacher. But when she saw our passion for this, she decided to support us. And so she was marvelous. And one of the things our mother did for the second graders is she always made these little signs for the desks with the kids' names on it. Like, we don't know our children's names, but we made those little signs for the front of the desks so that, so we'd be official. We wanted to be official. And we took curriculum from we just wanted to teach the best curriculum, so we didn't sign on to any particular curriculum. We got curriculum from our mom, who suggested things. We got curriculum from Becca, because we knew that was Christian curriculum, and we wanted our children to have a Christian foundation in education. We made materials. We bought a Montessori, teaching Montessori. We were both having new babies. And so we made this teaching Montessori in the home stuff all summer long, and we had a great time kind of putting it together. We bought all age-appropriate materials. So everybody had their own math book, everybody had all their own language materials, everybody had their own history book, everybody had their own science book, everybody had their own everything. And that's how we began. And we taught separately in our own homes, and then on Friday we would get together for what we called Fun Day. You probably should never call one particular day of the week Fun Day, because we want them to think it's all pretty fun, but we did call it Fun Day, and that still kind of sticks today, I think. So we got together for music, art, and literature, and field trips, those kinds of things on Fridays. And that's how we started. Now, we knew there was we taught this way for years. I don't know, maybe for a whole decade. We taught this way for a long time. And we would make the children a chart. We'd get together in the mornings, we'd have a prayer, we'd say the pledge, we would teach a poem and a song and a scripture, and then it was kind of off to the races. Everybody had their own little chart with all the subjects listed on it, and it was their job to get from the top to the bottom of that chart every day. And so they would they would say, will you give me a spelling test? Will you listen to me read? Will you help me with my math? And we just tried to go here and there and here and there and here and there with every subject. With every subject. And when we knew that there was, and my daughter's in the back here, Jen, that's the way she was homeschooled. That's exactly the way she was homeschooled. And she turned out great. She's an awesome mom. But it was hard, and I don't know if she remembers ever praying, but I remember hearing my children pray, please, Heavenly Father, please bless us to get done. And I thought, that's not really the prayer. We were having a great time, and don't get me wrong, we were having some fabulous, sweet experiences with our children, but we knew that something had to change about our school. We were very committed. We did not allow ourselves to wake up in the morning and say, I don't want to do this today. It doesn't mean there weren't days of sickness. It doesn't mean there weren't days where we had to do something else suddenly. But we really did not ever allow that thought to cross our minds, like maybe we'll do it tomorrow, but we're not doing it today. Go play, go watch Curious George, whatever. Not that some of them didn't watch Curious George while we were attending, but we were pretty faithful to this idea, and we knew the Lord would help us.
So, in 1981, after 9 years, 1991, sorry, I don't have my glasses on, we came to the point where we absolutely had to change the way that we were homeschooling. I was pregnant with twins, and so I had to spend my whole entire day on the couch because they were numbers 6 and 7. And Nannette was going through a divorce, and so we felt like it was time to rally the forces and do something different. And the Lord was blessed us at this time, and I think that's a really important thing about homeschool, is that we really felt like the Lord guided us to each of these different ways of doing things. But He gave us a new idea and a new approach to homeschooling. We found with this new approach that it did several things. It uncomplicated our days. It gave us more freedom in the afternoon and the evenings. It gave us greater unity within the family. And we did not have to sacrifice academically in the education part. So first of all, we said, what subjects absolutely have to be taught together? So, have to be taught individually, child to child to child. So we said math, for sure, and all of the language arts stuff. So grammar, reading, spelling, writing, all those things. So we decided that those had to be still individually. So we decided that we would teach those to our children in the morning. And then the next thing that we would do is we took all the other subjects, which were history, geography, science, music, art, and literature, and we would teach them all together to all of our children in a one-room schoolhouse. And that was the new plan. So what we would do is in the mornings we would devote ourselves to individual work with the kids. And then in the afternoons, we decided to get together as a little co-op in the afternoon, and we would teach the other subjects together in the family school way. We called it was a family school. We replaced the checklist. It didn't have to be, well, not completely, but it was much less. Let's see. Oh, the way that we did it. This was a lot of work, but we were committed to doing it. Excuse me. We started out with a 6-year plan. So we said to ourselves, if you were teaching science for 6 years, what sciences would you teach in that many years? So first year we would teach this science. Next year we would teach this science. Next year, and we just broke it. Every single subject we broke up like that. Geography, same year. We went by continent. History, we started at the beginning and went to the end and chopped it in 6 pieces. Art, we decided which artists we wanted to teach in that year. Music, same deal with the musicians and what principles we wanted to teach that year. And literature, we chose the books that we wanted to teach that year. So that was the first step, was breaking it up into a 6-year cycle that we would cycle through.
Is that K6?
K6. Well, actually, some of our kids went on and got 1 and 2 again because we didn't put them in as soon. Then we would take that 1 year, and then we decide who was going to teach which subjects. So then we would take that 1 year. Let's say it was going to be anatomy. We're going to teach anatomy and science this year. Then we said, okay, what are the subjects inside of anatomy that we would teach? And we made a schedule of what we would teach in that year. And how many, and so we broke it down even that much further. And then we started developing our own lessons using, we used a lot of books, Childcraft, and there were lots of encyclopedias and all kinds of things, not anywhere close to what we have today. So that was how we set up our plan. That was a really important thing, to have a good, solid plan. It was a lot of hard work, but we loved it. We started our homeschool with an opening prayer, a pledge, patriotic song, memorizing scriptures, poems, and songs. One afternoon each week we devoted to what we called it homemaking day, where we did shopping and scouts and activity days and cleaning and storage, emergency preparedness, all that kind of stuff. We had one day where we didn't have subject school in the afternoon. Then 3 days a week, we decided that we would just focus on one subject. We tried it a bunch of different ways. This was what worked best for us in the end. One subject in the afternoon for a week. So 1 week science, 1 week history, 1 week geography, and back again. Then the last day of the week, we called it our Humanities Day. So that fourth day, when we're actually together, was when we did our humanities. So we would do literature every single time. And then the second half of the family school was either music for 3 weeks or art for 3 weeks, because it takes about 3 weeks to do an art project, to develop it and get it going and introduce it. So that was how we ran. That was how we ran the school. After school, after school we just dedicated to just errands and music lessons and all those playing. That's some kids don't get that chance. So anyway, that was basically how we ran our school.
I heard like your emergency stuff, but I heard lessons and play.
The emergency preparedness goes on that one free day that you have to just kind of do the things that help keep your household running.
In our school, a lot of the time it was Monday that we called homemaking day. So we didn't teach the family school. We didn't have a family school. The kids got up and did their math and their language and their practicing and read their scriptures and those kind of things. But in the afternoon, on 1 day a week, it was free.
And I heard 3 days like would be science for 1 week, and then I thought I heard 1 day was humanities.
That was humanities.
And then another day.
Yeah, because there's 5 weekdays. So 3 are the science and the core, those core. The 4th one is the humanities day, and the 5th one is free day. It's free where you're just taking care of your households.
So this week,
Yeah, okay.
do you understand?
Okay.
Emergency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where emergency preparedness would come
There
in.
you go.
Okay, what happened was as we started doing this and it was working really well, there were other people that saw what we were doing and they were like, hey, could we come and visit your homeschool and see what it looks like? Then once they were there, they said, hey, can we join your homeschool? And so our co-op began to grow and grow. And it was a huge blessing to a lot of people that came in and were able to, it blessed us as mothers because then we didn't have to teach so many subjects. And we switched up the subjects so that everybody could, so that the moms could continue learning as well. But we did write all of our own, well, we didn't actually write it all out, but we came up with all of our own lessons every single time we taught. So it was nice to have the co-op for that.
So we finally got organized so that it wasn't quite taking up every inch of our entire existence. Although homeschool is a huge commitment, it is a huge commitment. And from the beginning, these were the things we were excited about. We were excited about the freedom to choose the best curriculum that we could find. We were excited about choosing Christ-centered curriculum. And we were excited about the opportunity to introduce inspirational things to our children, inspirational poetry, beautiful scriptures. I cannot tell, I remember the first day that everybody else's children went back to school, and I invited my children into the living room, or the family room, and we sat down together, and one of them held up the little flag, and we had a prayer, and we sang a patriotic song, and I remember that I had chosen the song "The Swing" by Robert Louis Stevenson, and that was the the poem, yeah, the poem that we started out memorizing that first day. What a precious feeling that was, and so that was always a part of what we were doing. And now we were organized, and the Lord had another blessing in store for us, which we had no idea was coming. We could never have predicted this. But a family moved into Jane's neighborhood, Gaylord and Laurie Swim and their family. And a woman moved into our neighborhood. Her name she has passed on now, is Eugene Livingston. And they were very, very involved in the American Heritage School. Especially, in fact, Gaylord is the one who was the instigator of building this school. And Sister Livingston was the teacher trainer for all the teachers at the American Heritage School down in Pleasant Grove. And they had both gone back east to a school back east called Stonebridge, a Christian school, a private school, where they had a wonderful methodology that we were about to be introduced to. And what we were taught by the Swims and by Eugene Livingston was that a Christian school, according to these people, was not just a school where you had the freedom to put the 10 Commandments up and open with prayer and read a verse out of the Bible. That does not a Christian school make. A Christian school is actually a school where you can lay the principles of the gospel and the scriptures and the words of the prophets at the foundation of every subject. And Sister Livingston wanted us to understand how this worked, so she offered to be our literature teacher. And she came to my house once a week for 1 or 2 years, I can't even remember, but for quite a while she taught our children a lot of books and showed us how we could read a book, a great classic book, and see beautiful gospel principles and teach them to our children through that book, and then help the children know how to apply those principles to themselves. I'm going to show you a quick example. One year, she taught our children the book about a great navigator named Nathaniel Bowditch. And the kids loved this book. It was a great boy book, but the girls loved it too. And there's a part in this book where Nathaniel Bowditch is becalmed, and they looked up that word and figured out what it meant to be calm, and it meant to be stuck in the middle of the pond, the sea, with no breeze blowing you anywhere. How many of us ever felt that way? You know, stuck. And she talked to the kids about what they could do when they're stuck, about prayer and about fasting and exercising faith, and what we can do when we're becalmed. Well, Sister Livingston eventually was diagnosed with cancer, and she moved away from here. But one day she came to visit us, and one of the little boys in our school had made her a card. And this is his card. Okay, the book is called Carry On, Mr. Bowditch. The card is called Carry On, Sister Livingston. And then inside it says, never be becalmed. Love your homeschool. The children had learned something from a great classic book that they won't ever forget. As she taught us this way, we were so excited. It's quotes like this one. I have a lot of these quotes, but quotes like this one just came alive for us. This is Ezra Taft Benson talking at BYU, but he said that on this campus, BYU, in due time, there will be an increasing number of textbooks written by inspired men of the church. There will be less and less a tendency to subscribe to the false teaching of men. There will be more and more a tendency to first lay the groundwork of the gospel truth in every subject, and if necessary, to show where the world may fall short of that standard. Quotes like that, we just started thinking, oh, yes, we get that, we understand that. So, boy, we set out on a huge task, and we're not going to go into this a lot, but we took the curriculum from the Stonebridge people, and we Xeroxed it and cut it and tried to make it work for our family school. So we looked through their curriculum, and we found every single place where they teach, because they were a private school, all grade level, and we found we couldn't teach that way. So we found every place they talked about American history, and we glued it on little cards in all the grades. This is what they say about American history in the first grade, the second grade, the third grade. These are the books they read. Here's my little list. This is my little handwriting, my list, writing down all the literature out of the Noah Plan. That's what they call it. It was a huge task, but we loved it. It was a lot of work. But when people would come to us and they'd say, oh, we want to homeschool. How do you do it? We'd just be like, I'd be like, Jane, nobody would ever do this. Who would ever do this? You know, this is nuts. We're crazy, and nobody's going to do what we do. Nobody's going to do this. So, so we wouldn't really have anything good to tell them, except that we really loved it. We were really enjoying it, and we loved being with our kids, and good luck, you know. But the methodology of the Noah Plan, Jane's going to talk to you a little bit about that right now. The methodology of the Noah Plan was just so powerful.
Some of the methods that they use really just enrich the whole education experience for the children. The first thing one of the first methods that we use is the notebook method, so that the children have a recording of their education. They put their things in, they record the principles, they record their drawings, everything goes into the notebook. And I know that my daughter Mary Beth, her notebooks are just you know, they're like as sweet as her scrapbook. She loves and cherishes those. So the notebook is a wonderful, important method. Another method that is used is called 4Ring. And this is how we actually teach. And the way that we teach is the 4 R's are research, where we research an academic concept. So that's basically what we would get in the public school, a lot of academicness going on. We teach that, but we go further. The second R is reason. We reason, we take that information and we reason out a gospel principle from that academic idea or concept. We do words, okay, I'll keep going. The third one is relate. So the child relates the principle to themselves and record where they actually record it and use it in their lives. So you can see that this takes it, these 4Ring takes it a lot more than just suck in all this information and throw it back out onto a test. It's much deeper than that. So research, reason, relate, and record. The way that we reason out a principle many, many times is by using the dictionary and doing a word study, where we take a word that, you could take in geography, you could take the word island and look up the word, look up the definition, and then see how the word island is used in the scriptures. And you can look at some of those deeper definitions that will help you to pull out these gospel principles. And we can see what the words of the prophets teach us about an island. There's a whole conference talk on no man is an island. I mean, there's so much information out there that we can grab and use to help strengthen and to teach the children so that when they see something, an island, a gulf or whatever, they can think, oh, I know another definition, not just that academic definition, but another that will help them to remember and apply the gospel in their lives. Great literature is another very important part of our curriculum, because literature makes the subject come alive. And every subject we have found great works of literature that will help to, in art, the single shard. There's just, in botany, little freckles. There are wonderful books out there that can really help to enrich the learning experience and that will help the subject come alive. And so those are some of the methods. And then the very last one, reports and celebrations. Those are always really fun. You put those in along the way as well.
So I tell you, we had a great time together. It was a great ride. We helped each other out a lot. It was wonderful to be able to work together. I think, did you tell them that some of our children have moved away, and they're able to teach this way, even though they move away, and they're preparing all the subjects themselves.
Well, and even Jenny.
We were able to share. We were able to share the subjects, which was nice. You know, I could take history and she could take geography, and so we had a great experience. Our hearts ached for women that we would meet. Often I would meet moms that were my age and their children were grown, and they would say to me, I wish I'd done it. I wish I'd done it, you know. Or we meet somebody who'd say, I'd like to do it, but I'm scared. But we were done. We were serving missions now. We were grandmas, and all of our stuff was kind of put away. And one day, a little over a year ago, I was upstairs trying to throw away some homeschool stuff. I tell you, it's hard. If you're a homeschool mom and your child writes a 5 on a paper, you're like, oh, it's his first 5, you know, and I'm terrible. My daughter tells me you can take pictures of those kinds of things, Mom, and you don't have to keep everything. So I was upstairs trying to sort through things, and just feeling so tender-hearted towards our whole experience that we'd had. And I called Jane on the phone, and I said, you know, I don't know, I can't throw it all away. I feel like we're not done. I don't even know why I feel that way, but I feel like we're not really done with this experience that we've had. But, you know, we're old, and it seems like we're done, you know. Well, within a very short time, I got a phone call from another neighbor, Sister Carver. And Sister Carver teaches 2nd grade at this school. We hadn't had really much association with this school, except at the beginning, when Sister Livingston was the teacher trainer down at the old school, and then a little bit after they'd built this school. And she didn't have a lot of teachers that had been back and been trained back at the Stonebridge School. So she would ask Jane and I and some others to come out and do the training of the teachers. But that hadn't happened for years and years, and nobody in the school involved now hardly remembered that we'd ever been involved. But this neighbor called and she said, at this school they're having a discussion tomorrow afternoon, and the discussion is about what do homeschool moms need? What do they want? What do they need? If we could somehow through American Heritage, if we could serve the homeschool mom, what could we do to help them? And I said it was graduation, like it was yesterday, so it was, it was probably that day, like yesterday, graduate from BYU, and my daughter-in-law was graduating from BYU. I only had a few minutes. So I rushed into this meeting. I sat down. I listened for a minute. It was time for me to leave. And I said, I've got to go, but these are my little thoughts. I said, first of all, homeschool moms are homeschooling by and large because they want to homeschool. They're not homeschooling because they can't afford to send their kids to a private school. They're not homeschooling because they hate public school. They're homeschooling because they feel this call to homeschool their kids. Secondly, it's very, very hard. Most homeschools moms burn out within the first 3 or 4 years. They can't keep it up. And I said, I think the reason is because they're trying to teach every subject on grade level to every child, and it can't really be done. And but they want this kind of education. They want this. In fact, maybe they don't want it. I think at the end I said, this might not be what they want, but this is what they need. Okay? This kind of education that you give these sweet little children running around in red, white, and blue all over this campus every day of the week, they want this. They want to know how to teach the gospel to their children while they're teaching an academic subject. And I said, I think that's what they need. I got to go. Good luck. And hurry. I said, good luck and hurry. And then I left. So a few days later, we got a phone call from Peter Connect, and I got one, and he said, I'd like you to come back out. He said, what you said really resonated with, and he had been doing huge numbers of surveys and interviews with homeschool moms before this meeting. And what he basically said was, it resonates with everything I've found as I've been talking to homeschool moms. And he said, will you come back out? And I said, well, if you've seen me, you've seen my sister. And we're a team. And so Jane agreed to come back out. And with that, I think the family school was moved along. I don't know if it was born that day, but it definitely was moved along. And such an exciting thing it is. So Jane is going to show you a little bit about the website. Is there anybody in here who's never been on the Latter-day Learning website? Okay, so just a few.
I'm just going to go quickly
Okay.
through. This is latterdaylearning.org, and it is the home of the family school right now. If you go on to if you go to latterdaylearning.org, this is the main page that you'll come to. And you will want to come down here to the K-6 family school, and that's where you will find what we're doing. If you come down to the bottom of it, it has a schedule of the scope and sequence. So this is like what we did, only it's here for anybody. It's a huge blessing. So here we have the scope and sequence for all the different subjects. So this is, okay, I'll get to that, but down at the bottom here. So I'm just going to give you a quick peek at geography. So it takes just a sec for it to come up. And then above that, okay, so this is how we divided it out into the different, so you can see this for every subject, okay? And then another thing that you can do is you can look on here, and they have this broken down into years. So this is year 1, and they will show you, they have a calendar that shows every single, they set up a calendar for people that wanted to start in August or September. A lot of people that started this actually decided to wait a little bit and start a little bit later so that they weren't quite so, so that they could be up with, oh, thanks, Jen. So I have this cough. Anyway, there is a calendar that kind of helps you to know the system for when you're teaching geography for 3 weeks and literature for 3 weeks, and you can jump into it whenever you really want. Then, if you go back here, you can see it says view some sample lessons. You can look at there are 3 samples for each of the different subjects, and also they have, which I wanted to show you here quickly. In geography, they all have a table of contents, so you can kind of get a peek at what is being taught during that year. With geography, there's a little pattern that goes. This is all updated now because we have a new one, so you'll get one that's even better than what we have here. So, and then the last thing that I wanted to show you that I think is really helpful is here's a lesson, and I just want to show you quickly what they look like. They're just beautiful, and this is almost perfect, but not quite. We have even a little bit more updated. Every lesson has a desired result. You can see there. An academic idea, at least always 1, occasionally 2. If you've done if you've been doing this, you'll find that these lessons are shorter than when we very first began. They're much easier to teach, and they're much easier to write. And they're much easier to edit. So then there's a list of preparation materials. We will also have a list of all the preparation materials that you will need for a quarter at a time, so that you can look ahead and say, oh, this is everything I need for the quarter, which we know will be helpful to the moms. So everything that you'll need, online materials as well, and we have a page that you can go to that has all of your online links that you'll need. And then we always start with it's on the Family School under Network, and if you want all the online materials and everything, you get the password or whatever, and you can go into those. Every lesson has an attention activity, and then we do research. You can see there's the research, and then the reasoning section. It's all scripted, so if you don't know what to say, just start reading the page because it's all there. We really wanted to help you out as much. And then we have review and testimony, and then another really important thing at the end, a section for literature to read, and then a record. And in the record we have, right at the moment, we have things that all of your children can do, things that your younger children can do, things that your older children can do for the record. This is where it really splits out, and it helps the older kids. And then we always have enrichment things at the end that are just things you could do for family night or a family trip or whatever, a game you can play, just anything else that came in that had to do with that subject. So that's the Family School website.
And it will always just be almost perfect because
yes,
that's how life is, right? I'm sure they'll make improvements every year to the old curriculums and to the one coming up. Jane and I, we're not the Family School. The Family School is really a team of developers, editors, designers, marketers, someone who's in charge of the website. It's a huge, huge team effort, and we're so grateful just to be part of this team. It's been an amazing thing. So is this class over at 12:30? 12:30.
Okay, good.
Okay. Well, we have loved our experience. We have truly loved it, and we want, in conclusion today, to just kind of share a few just personal things with you, personal blessings that have come to us as a result of teaching this way. Things that have touched our hearts, not just our minds. Plenty of what we've done has touched our minds. Our children are all really doing well. My mother asked me when she asked us when we first started teaching, are you doing this, to get your kids out of the house sooner, to get them into college sooner, and so we want you to know that we are not the mothers of any BYU freshman 12-year-olds, we're not. Even, we do have one fellow in our family that just got his doctorate from Stanford. But he was homeschooled through the 8th grade. Also, they might want to know that we actually, in our experience, our children went to to public school full-time starting in the 9th grade. So we can't answer a lot of questions about high school homeschooling. And by the time our kids were in junior high, most of them went half day to junior high. So you kind of get used to another teacher and to that whole situation a little bit before they would have to be at school all day long. And that way we could stretch it out a little bit too for ourselves, because we hated it when they went back. But they're all doing well. We have children. We have 4 children who are registered nurses. We have a doctorate, son who's a doctorate, a son who has his master's degree. We have a daughter on a mission, a daughter who...
Military?
Oh yeah, my son's in the Air Force and at BYU. Speaks 2 languages that I didn't teach him 1 word of. So our kids are doing well academically. They did really well socially. My kids, when they go to BYU, they have to write that English term paper for the freshman English class. And a couple of them have decided to research socialization and homeschool. And I'm sure it's because every time they tell somebody they were homeschooled, somebody says, well, you got to stay in your pajamas all day long, or you watch television all day long. And so, or people will say, well, what about the socialization? What about the socialization? And what studies show is that homeschooled children are as well socialized or better socialized than other children, than children that aren't homeschooled. And I think that's by and large because we're not ever in a classroom again the rest of our lives with 35 7-year-olds, are we? We deal with people of all ages. And homeschooled children often, I know we helped our children be involved in the community, in dance and in sports and in service in the community. And so, in the church.
Younger and older.
Yeah. So, it's been really happy and successful to us. Jane's going to tell you a few things, just kind of some tender things from her own experience.
I think one of the most exciting things is to teach your children how to read yourself and to see the light turn on. That was one of the greatest blessings that I felt came out of my working with my youngest children, to see them actually learn how to read and enjoy it, and to just see that right when they can actually sound it out. It's a wonderful thing. Being a part of our children's learning is a wonderful experience. And because our children have so much in common because of the family school, in art, I know going to the museum. I remember going to one of the art museums with all of my kids back east somewhere, and seeing George Washington crossing the Delaware. We had a picture that was probably this big that we were flashing the kids, and they could say George Washington crossing the Delaware. But when they got there and they saw it, it was huge. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's bigger than the screen here. It's ginormous. And the kids for them to see the excitement and the commonality within the family is it's a wonderful, wonderful benefit of having the group school. I did get to keep learning every day. I can go to Stanford, but I have such a great background in so many different things because of the opportunity that I've had to teach. So I've loved that. One of the things that I really enjoyed doing was making games to go with my, I really like to use games as a learning tool. And so I made a game that was like Authors, only it was Presidents of the United States. And I made a whole set of wonderful zoology flashcards, and maybe we're going to try and make those available for you someday. Mine are all, but it's how to classify animals. It's a card game. It's really fun. But making games was a really fun way for me to work with the kids, and we enjoyed that. We would not have traded the learning experiences that we've had for anything. And the experiences that we've had with our children have been so tender. And we've had hard times, but we pushed through them and have had a lot of success. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be able to share with you and give you an easier way to access the kinds of things that we were able to do with our children. So, thank you.
Homeschooling your kids isn't easy, and we don't want to make it sound like we never had any hard days. We had some hard days. I remember one night sitting on my bed, and I was making it. One thing we did in the mornings, and we're going to talk about this more in our afternoon class called the Grand Opening, but we really got excited about teaching our kids with flashcards. We kind of got this idea from Glenn Doman. He was the How to Teach Your Baby to Read person back in the 70s and 80s, but he wrote a book called How to Increase Your Child's Encyclopedic Knowledge, or something like that. That's probably not the exact title. And he divided all knowledge into a certain number of areas, and suggested that we could make flashcards and teach these little tiny kids, you know, babies, how to recognize a bassoon or whatever. And we thought, we don't have time to teach our babies what a bassoon is, but we could use cards, because pictures will teach all the kids at one time. You can teach kids of every age if you're using picture cards. So we started developing sets of cards, and one night I had a really rugged homeschool day, where, you know, the child who says, do I have to do 2 pages of math? They ask it again and again and again. Or somebody is still doing their, you know, their language in the middle of the night, and our rule was you can play when you're done. So, you know, it was a rugged day, and I was making these cards. This was back in the very beginning, when we just had this little opening part. But I was making a set of cards. I had taken a calendar that was birds, and I was cutting out all the birds, and I was gluing them on a piece of white cardstock, and so I would have a new set of cards for the kids the next morning. And as I sat with my kids around me in a little circle in the morning, just really feeling like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? This is hard. This is hard, and my kids are ornery sometimes. They don't want to do it, you know. But I was showing them the cards, and I came to this beautiful bird I had never seen in my whole life, called a cedar waxwing. It was so pretty, and it had color, and it had a little gold on its tail. And I held it up for my kids, and I said, we never see these kind of, I wish we saw, Miss Negative, I wish we saw these kind of birds in our neighborhood. We just see robins and sparrows. Okay, go eat lunch. You know, we just kind of went through the cards. And anyway, my son had to go someplace that day, and my daughter followed him out and went with him. And a few minutes later, they ran back in the house, and they said, Mom, in the trees by the church, there are trees, and those trees are full of cedar waxwings. I was just like, come see. And I went to see them, and they were. I mean, there were just thousands of cedar, hundreds probably, but hundreds of cedar waxwings in this tree. It was just like this little hug from the Lord. You get those little hugs, I think, when you're doing homeschool, when you have hard days. It was like a little hug from him, just saying, you know what, you guys are doing good. You're on the right track. One day, when my daughter Jenny over here, when she was just tiny, her dad took her up to the church museum. She came, well, you were 5. You were 6. You were 6. And we had a set of art flashcards that we were using in the mornings. And he took her in the museum there, and he didn't really know what was going on with our flashcards in the morning. But she looked at the picture on the wall, and she said, Dad, that's Gethsemane by Harry Anderson. And he was just like, whoa. We taught our kids a poem. Jane was talking about commonality. We taught our kids a poem called Keep A-Goin'. And this poem has kind of been our family poem. And when my kids go on their missions or when they're away and I sign my letter, I always write, Keep A-Goin'. And they know what that means. Because they know the whole message of that poem, this common bond. And that's really fun. I wanted to share, let's see how much time we have. We still have 10 minutes.
Do we?
What did we do to go quicker in here? I'm not sure.
8 minutes.
8 minutes, okay.
We can ask questions too.
Yes, that's true. I'm going to share one last thing with you. When her little girl was about 12, Mary Beth, she was diagnosed with melanoma on her leg. Malignant melanoma. And
This is going to fall. And I had the great opportunity, the year that she was going through all of her chemotherapy, to be her history teacher in the afternoons. And I had all these ensigns upstairs, and I was teaching U.S. history, and then I paused to teach church history. And I had all these ensigns, and I thought, I'm really, Nannette, get real. You're not ever going to read every article in every one of these ensigns. But I loved the pictures. And so I spent hundreds of hours tearing out pictures out of my ensigns that had to do with church history. And I made a set of notebooks that took church history from Joseph Smith clear to the present day. And that was so fun. But I had a whole bunch of pictures left over. And I didn't know what to do with them. And I thought, well, I was praying about it one day, and I thought, well, you know, look at those pictures. You can divide those pictures into two different parts. And I did. I divided them into trials and how they survived their trials. So this is probably Mary Beth's or Andrew's little paper on that they wrote, learning this principle out of church history. So then it came time to do a record, and I wanted the kids to write something that about this. I mean, you can tell the kids, pioneers did this, pioneers experienced this, and this is how they survived. But if they never take it farther than that, to what does this have to do with me, that's the relate and the record part, then, you know, it's not really a part of them. So I asked them if they would both write a paper called You Don't Have to Push a Handcart. And this is Mary Beth's paper. She says, I am a modern day pioneer. I do not have the same trials, but I can overcome them in the same way. I have cancer. I need to have CAT scans. I need to lay so still in a machine for 45 minutes. When the machine tells me to hold my breath, it's kind of hard. To help me overcome it, I do something the pioneers would do. I sing primary songs. If I trust God, I know He will help me do it without worrying. Also, when I serve, like being nice to the doctors, it makes me less scared and also makes me less embarrassed. You know, Jane and I wouldn't miss those kind of experiences for anything, not for anything. We're so grateful that the Lord led us on this path. It's probably not for everybody, but it's been a great path for us, and we're so grateful to have been able to share this with you today. We know that if we're called to teach our kids in this way, the Lord will bless us. He gives us His grace. Grace is the enabling power that can come to us because of the atonement of Jesus Christ to continue to do a good work we would not be able to do without His help. And that certainly is true of rescuing our children through home education. And our prayers are with you. We're so grateful for your interest today in coming to our class. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Do you have any questions? Yes.
The lesson that you showed, how long does it take to get through, average time frame or something like that?
Lesson 19.
Our guideline, this is the guideline. Our guideline is that this is the part of the school that's for the afternoon. And what we're trying to do is compose lessons that take about 45 minutes to teach, 45 minutes to an hour. Then the kids can have a recess and then come back in and do the literature part and the records. So for every child it's going to be different because your older children are going to sit there and record longer. Your 4-year-old is going to scribble something on a piece of paper that has a picture of Moses on it and be gone. So it's very difficult to say. It will depend really a lot on the parent, but we're trying to make the research, reason, and relate to be about 45 minutes to an hour long. But you're going to get ideas along the way, and you as moms and dads, you're going to make it go longer than we wrote even sometimes, I bet. So, yes.
And you'll just have to pick and choose.
You can pick and choose. Yeah, it's a free country, you know. So. I think there are probably methods that they recommend through the school. The reading and the math, the spelling, the grammar are not part of the family school. Our family uses the Writing Road to Reading, right? And we used Right Start Math in the beginning, which, is that what you used too, Belinda? And then you started using a little bit of Saxon Math, right?
If you finished all of the Right Start, so now we're on
Okay.
the next second.
So,
There are some on the website. There's a network of people that have asked that question, and if you want to, if you join the network, you can get those answers.
read
There are
all their
lots of
answers.
answers of people giving ideas. I need some ideas for this, and you can go on and see what other people have expressed also. I just learned about this a little bit more. On the network, if you go to the network on the website, it will tell, I don't know, it tells by state. So if you live far away, you can find out, but maybe you would go on the network and you would say, I'm looking for people that are homeschooling in this area. And I mean, you can narrow it down to Utah. You can type in the, there's a search box, and you can type in, like the other day I typed in Texas to see if there's any, and there's a lot of people in Texas doing this. So you just type in at least the state, but for those of us that live in Utah, you might have to actually go on the network and say, I'm looking for people that live in this area that are maybe wanting to join in co-op. That's the best I can do at this point. I know,
Pray.
you had a question.
Pray.
I just wanted to know, I'm trying to decide which would be more a better fit to buy the actual hard copy book or the digital, because they're really different stuff of yours, or the system that you're showing me. What would you suggest? But I have definitely an integrator, and this is my first year of this.
a lot of the moms, when they did the survey, a lot of the moms, they really wanted to sit at the table with a book or sit on the couch with a book. They, you know, when I first, I don't know about you all, but when I first started homeschooling, there were some parents that would say to me, hey, we can get done in an hour and a half what takes them six hours to do in the public school. That's what they would say to us. And I would think, well, I don't know about that, but I just know what we do. And our school took the day. School took as long as any public school did for us. And so as far as choosing between, I would probably like to have both. But I know that the resources are online. They'll always be online. And there may be a way to, Grant, do you have a comment about that, about online or book form?
So, you talked about the family school, the elementary school, and I kind of listened on how they were talking a bit later. Usually the original part that about
Yeah, that. Then you can sit at the table.
Because then you could sit at the table with your little. Okay.
and I might just describe to this mother who asked about finding a co-op partner. We have all of the addresses. We're not going to give them out to anyone in the past because it's confidential information. For you to give us your address, we could send the people individually an email saying, hey, there's this mother who's looking for a co-op that
Oh, sweet.
That's a great idea.
So protecting their confidential private information at the same time giving them yours, they might reach out to contact.
It's time. So I'm going to get this down. People will ask the questions.
We probably need to wrap it up. We're so grateful you came. We'll be around. We'll be around during lunches.